Okay, it's 8:01. We'll call the meeting to order. Take roll call. Paul? Dean?
Here.
Bernie?
Here.
Neil?
Here.
Courtney's here. Jason? Not here. Corey?
Here.
All right. Amanda Engelstead and Lisa Heiser are also here. Did everybody have a chance to review the agenda, and are there any additions or changes to the agenda? No? Does anybody have a motion to approve?
I would move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Okay, Neil moves to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Corey seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay. Let's move on to the minutes of the last meeting, which was March 4th. I was absent. Anybody have any edits or additions to the meeting minutes from March 4th?
Madam Chairman, I would move to approve the minutes.
Okay, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And the minutes are approved. Okay, bills for approval. Looks like we've got $2,584.82 in the general fund. Lisa, anything to call out there?
Nothing really specific. That Pathfinder one was to get some more pipe for the fairgrounds panels. And then the panels that we take out, they'll straighten those. I think we can just probably drive over them with a skid and straighten out the bows in them. And then we'll be able to reuse those panels and create a nice little area over there. What I anticipate will be used in kind of a warm-up area, 4-H show ring type of an area next to the main arena, north of it.
Who builds those then if we just skip the pipe?
The road department builds those when don't have their own stuff to do. They build them kind of, I call it their off-season, but it's really not an off-season, but they'll build them and get everything kind of done with whatever we have on tap. I just met with Cody Wall actually and got a little bit of a list done of what I would need help with on their side and some of the things that I need help with some things. So they're gonna add them in as they can fit them in, so.
So I have a question on this. This is the second batch of tubing that we purchased from them?
Correct, yes.
Do we get any certificate of any norm levels after they clean it to say that the norm levels or the T-norm in that pipe has been cleaned
I
out?
don't know. I'm not aware of that. I don't think it's on their invoice. Let me
I would
look
assume
real
he
quick.
would do a scan before he sells that for unrestricted use.
Yeah, this is the bill here, but
Good question, Corey. All of it's hot when it comes out.
It's all hot.
Yeah.
I don't see anything that says that they did that or that it's not.
Can we reach
That'd be
out to
all I
somebody
have.
and maybe have somebody come and scan that tubing?
Absolutely.
Might be Bronco Environmental. I know they do that as well.
Okay.
They wash it too, right?
They wash it. They do, their pressure washer is a 50,000 PSI pressure washer, whereas
Okay.
I believe the stuff at Pathfinder is rattled. So rattling is probably not as effective.
Okay. And who did you say that was?
It'd be, I think it's Dalton Kuhn, Kuhn, with Bronco Environmental.
Okay.
They have the Geiger counters.
And just to have that
Making
scanned
sure-
with ones that we have.
Just make sure that it scans below background
Okay.
or whatever the state requirements are.
I will do that. And I'll let you know what we come up with. And I will check with Pathfinder too to see if they have a process of what they're doing, and I didn't know
And
that was a
I know
thing.
he rattles
I'm
it.
sure that Randy probably
Yeah.
does, or Joe knows that, but I will double check that.
We just want to make sure we don't have hot tubing,
Even for the guys that are working on it,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
especially when you start welding on it, it's
Yeah.
even worse.
it releases it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've been welding, so, yeah. definitely. Need to make sure that that is the thing, so I will double check that.
So I'll make a motion to approve the $2,584.82 out of the general fund.
Okay, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is that Dean?
Yes.
All right, Dean seconds. Any other discussion? Hearing none, put it to roll call vote. Paul?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Bernie?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Jason's here too.
Oh, hi, Jason.
Morning,
Jason votes aye? Okay. And Corey?
Aye.
All right, moving on to the special project fund. Looks like $23,561.
So the two bills that are on there, the GT architecture bill for 7,500, that was for the code analysis on the livestock building plans. And then Keith signs the motorsports park signage. That was the one that we have not installed at this point, but that was a sign that was made. And you guys can see the invoice if you'd like, but the signage that we put up there initially in the interior of the park, so there was 4 different signs that we put up there, and then one on the exterior, basically telling the people where to go and acknowledging that that was a Stark County-owned property, and with the name of the motorsports park on there. So the big sign I have stored at the fairgrounds right now, until we decide if that's gonna be a go. I don't have anybody that has put in any RFP to take that over after this year. So we just held on the install part of it for now. And the funds for that, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
The funds for that signage was it was probably 2 years ago, one from the ARPA funds. And so that's where those dollars come from. Was allotted I think it was 125,000.
So you
from
ordered
those
this sign
funds.
2 years ago?
So when Keith Signs was making their transition, I think that's where everything got kind of lost in the shuffle when we've had the sign built for quite a while.
So there will be an additional bill to install it?
If we choose to install it, correct. And that's the one that goes right on the highway. Yep.
So did we deposit the unused special, ARPA funds into the special project fund?
I believe she might have. I'd have to check with the auditor.
I
remember-
guess that's my question is, what makes this a special project fund
Yeah,
expense? I'm not
and that's,
disputing.
yeah, and I believe that is correct, because when we did the fairgrounds, the big sign, the LED sign there, that came out of the special projects funds, and that was allocated the same way. They gave us 125,000 total to do both facilities. That's where that would come
So
from, I would
this sign's
guess.
built,
Yes,
just
Yep.
waiting to be installed?
yep,
It may not be installed though.
Can the
that's a potential,
can the face be changed?
yes. We made sure of that. Yep.
Just, and it's probably not a big deal, but I do remember us being quite specific on those ARPA ones. I know the sign to the fairground was there. There was some other, 2 or 3 things. So I'm just concerned about the technical aspect of it, that this sign was in there just because I see they're shutting down and auditing all the ARPA and
I'm
recovery.
almost positive she moved that ARPA fund stuff
So if-
into that
if-
special project.
And you confirm that?
yeah, she's-
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
So they built it 2 years ago, or they just built it?
Well, it's been almost a year that it's built. We were holding on installing it, for that reason of we weren't sure what we were doing with that.
Yeah, if we don't lease it out again, I mean, there's no reason to put it up.
Otherwise, we have to put it up, pay to put it up, and then take it down and pay the lease of having a sign there.
Are we putting it where we currently have that rental sign on that property? Is that
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yep. We have not done anything with that, just based on the uncertainty of what was gonna happen with this facility at this point. If we don't have anybody to take it over, I mean, I certainly can't put on races too, so unless we hire
No.
somebody. I mean, that's, I wouldn't know what I'm doing in order to do that, so. Unless you want to do them.
So we could repurpose this sign,
Correct.
what we know, okay.
Well, I mean, it's there, we gotta pay for it, so I make a motion that we approve the special project fund of $23,561.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the special project fund expenses. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Corey seconds. Any other discussion?
Maybe we can repurpose it for the new sheriff's department.
Maybe. It's a nice sign. I mean, it's, not lit or anything, but it is a beautiful sign.
That's something that we want to put on a
Corey's
future
probably
agenda
watching
for
somewhere.
discussion.
We
as
could.
to-
The bills,
Bill,
to
the
pay the
expense.
bills itself, yep, yep. Right, on number 2, on your bills for approval, that's what we're looking at right there, yep,
The discussion was on the $16,000
Yep.
for the signage.
yep. Yeah. So that sign is being stored at the fairgrounds right now, we just had them deliver it, they needed to get it out of their shop because of the whole change of Keith Signs to Vision and that, so we just told them bring it out there, and that's what I guess triggered the bill to do it, because now we don't have install, so that was why.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion or questions? If not, put it to a vote. Paul?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Bernie?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
Courtney votes aye. Jason? Corey?
Aye.
All right, those bills are approved. Moving on to old business. First thing I have is commercial weed spraying applicators license update.
That's just an update for the board. Bailey did order her supplies, her studying supplies, and got those, and so she's studying right now for that test. It is open book, so shouldn't be too bad, but she's flagging where she needs to open the book to and take that test, so that should be done. I'll provide you another update at the next meeting that she's got it, and get that done so that we can start spraying pretty early, and then she'll have to get with Travis and just see what she needs to do and learn how to operate some of that equipment.
We visited our last weed board meeting and just get her out there, make an appointment, do some operational training, train her a little bit up on that equipment.
Perfect, we'll do that.
We can move on to Fair Association Community Funds Management, which was a discussion from March 4th. Continuing on.
So just to refresh minds and some that weren't here, maybe, that it was brought to the Stark County Fair Association of whether they would take on the responsibility of managing the community funds. And they voted that they would take that on and try and do it for a year. And then this board, we brought it back to this board, and you guys wanted to table it for further discussion. So that's why it's on there.
Well, there's been some discussion. I think the city has got some plans to, well, I'm not sure how far along they are with plans, but I understand that they're gonna take on the parade,
Yeah.
and
We'll work with Rough Rider Commission.
which
on the
was a
parade.
Rough Rider Commission sole deal, right? And they were gonna also take on, the fireworks. Apparently, they were gonna put on a fireworks display, and, which I'm not sure was. Rough Rider
They're doing a
Commission.
concert.
And they are gonna talk about doing a concert as
The
well.
Rough Rider Commission is doing a small rodeo dance, I believe.
Yep.
And the city plans on doing a concert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Rough Rider Commission is still gonna help with the parade, they're gonna do the
I think it's a
majority.
combined
the-
effort there.
Yeah, and the fireworks, the city is taking that and doing the fireworks, so I don't know how much involvement they'll have with that, but
So I could expect the city probably to ask for some funds, potentially. I don't know that for sure, but I would think that they may, since they're gonna take on some of the Rough Rider Commission, things over the fair time or whatever, so.
I mean, I guess that's discussion when they come here to decide if we want to give them money or not.
Well, the only reason I mention this, because we typically, we allocate that $85,000 to the Rough Rider Commission for their activities over the.
Which was
Rough Rider days.
considered to be Stark County's fair.
Yeah.
So if the city takes it over, I think that takes our end of it out of there. But that's discussion at that point.
So does that save us $85,000?
Well, they'll probably come to us for money, but I mean, I
We
would not,
still need to put on the fair.
I mean, maybe they're gonna come to us for
Well,
ten,
I guess,
$10,000 maybe, you know, I have no idea.
Yeah.
They haven't come to us yet.
okay, so I guess I would want Lisa to explain of the 170 that we have for community events, half of it was typically dedicated to Rough Rider
Right.
Days.
Yes, for.
But
yeah,
now the Fair Board
events.
wants to assume those responsibilities of sponsoring community events. So why do they,
Well,
why would we need
yeah.
the full 170 is where I'm coming from.
Well, because
Why
it's
shouldn't
not
it?
all just fair events that we're doing. So the $85,000 was an agreed upon amount based on their budgets. And I do actually have their budgets now that will go to the committee to meet and decide allocations of funds to bring back to you guys for approval. But the funds themselves go to support the fair events. So you have to have our fair association have a fair, no matter what we do. That, if you have to have it, in order for you guys to be even giving them any dollars, they have to have a fair. And so that's what Rough Rider Commission is kind of the middleman to that. And then our fair association is working to have fair events. It isn't, the parade has never been one that we've supported financially, nor have we supported the fireworks. So the city's always been involved in that financial support on their side. So that isn't anything that, in my mind, would even be a consideration of cutting funds because they're not doing those two events solely, that they're just getting help from the city. So whether that's by personnel or whatever.
And my
so.
comment isn't that we take the 85,000, just automatically transfer it to the city. My comment is if we don't have a predetermined path for the 85, I think if you want to transfer management authority, that we only would transfer the 85,000, not the 170,000. Just, I guess.
Well, I think when we-
Ultimately, it's our funds that we've been dedicating, and so why wouldn't we still have a say in those funds rather than just hand over a blank check and then have a third party approve and disperse those funds?
When we came up with this dollar amount, though, that we did not know the Rough Rider Commission was gonna be backing out of all this stuff.
Fully
You know,
understood.
So that's why that budget is there.
Fully understood.
And we, at one of our previous meetings, we sort of asked that the Fair Association take over more responsibility instead of just leaving it on Lisa's shoulders on how this money was being,
Well, what we asked was that rather than it be a unilateral decision on what community events get sponsored, that there be a group of individuals so that there's some fallback and some discussion on that, you know, and so that's my point. So
yeah, that's exactly what happened, yeah, so we have a,
I don't think that's exactly what, I
No,
don't think
that-
that's exactly what this looks like, is my point.
I was asked to go to the Fair Association because I was told that you guys wanted to maybe move that money. And so I knew that in the past, they've said, no, we don't, you guys allocate it. And so that's why I went and just asked them at their meeting and brought that back to you guys to see, is it something you want to do? They're willing to take it. If you're not, leave it here. It doesn't
have a
matter
problem
to me where it
staying
allocates.
here either, I mean, whatever.
The system is the same. You know, if it transferred to the Fair Association, it isn't just gonna fall on me to decide again. It's the whole process is the same. Right now, the only thing that I did recommend adding was somebody from the Fair Association onto our committee. So the committee right now consists of Commissioner Marsh and our auditor, Karen Richard, myself, and then I requested to add Dustin, our chairman for the Fair Board, on there, just because it's their events that they're putting on at the fairgrounds that we're supporting to the major part. It's not all of them, because there are some at the Motorsports Park that we do support, but that was where the majority was, so they should probably have a voice in it. And that
Still
was one
coming,
of
gets
the things.
presented here for approval anyway, doesn't it?
Correct, yep,
Well,
this is
but
just
not
a,
necessarily. We had this discussion last year when it came to the motorcycle crew at the fairgrounds, where there was a $3,000 community sponsorship recommended, and I specifically questioned it, and it was said that we've given authority to the park director, to Lisa, to allocate and spend those funds, and so therefore we were put in that box that those dollars we couldn't have said no to that.
Right.
Because we've authorized.
but that was
Lisa-
before this process was put in place.
I'm not
That's
so
why.
certain of that, but
Do we just want to have all applications come to us here?
that's still where I'm at.
That's fine.
Yep, and,
So no
with
committee.
the understanding that there's approximately 85,000 available for Rough Rider days, however you
Mm-hmm.
want to recommend that versus, the way the way it's laid out to me, if I read it correctly, is that there's $170,000 available to be spent however, and you could decide to spend it all on the Rough Rider days or none on the Rough Rider days, and that's not the intent of when we budgeted these dollars, so.
But you also hired me because you can trust well, you didn't hire me, but I was hired because you can trust what I'm doing is for the best of the community. And so by saying that I could just go ahead and do that, I've never done that. And so.
Yeah,
I
please
just-
don't make that inference.
No, I just,
What I'm saying is, I don't care what department it is, we have the road department, they just don't arbitrarily go out and allocate and spend money without input and approval from the board, and that's where I'm at. So that, because if things would go south really fast, it's the ultimate responsibility is back on the boards, whether it's the
Correct.
park board or the full county commission. So that's my position. I want that clarified and
so
understood.
you're the one that asked me to do the committee. So are we
Yes.
not doing a committee?
No, the committee's gonna
No.
make the recommendation.
Yeah.
They just,
Still
I
are,
just,
okay, I'm
but
getting
there's a difference
confused here.
between making a recommendation and being authorized to spend the money. That's my point.
Correct, but Bernie just asked if you wanted all the applications to come here for you guys to determine, and you said yes.
Well, I don't,
And so I just want clarification.
I
Are we-
like I said, I think we need to fine tune this process just a touch here, and I think it's a good idea, your committee, that you guys screen that, knowing what our values are here, bring us some legitimate candidates for this process, because I don't think we want this to be just, have everyone showing up at this podium asking for dollars when we haven't screened it, haven't had that process. You guys do the legwork as far as screening the process, vet that situation. If you feel like it meets our goals and our ideals of this county, come with a recommendation to this board. We can make
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I apologize.
that's the point I'm trying to
Exactly
get
what we're
across.
doing.
So if I misspoke, that's fine, but,
But I think that ultimately, and I
should
think
better
it's
know.
good for you guys as well, not to have that ultimate authority, because ultimately, this board, which filters up to the county commission, we all have to be responsible and being able to justify whatever. And so, just that filter it through the whole process and everybody's on board, and when they say yay, they feel good about it. So I don't think a little oversight, especially spending public dollars like this, we just have to be
No, I
super
don't-
careful that we
Yeah.
are maintaining that.
So when we bring the recommendations, do you want the applications with it?
Yeah, I mean, that would be good, just to have some
help.
information, what the, what
Budgets.
the actual event
Or just keep
is.
the
and-
communication open, so we
Yeah.
know exactly what.
Yeah, I think that would
where
be
we're
good.
going.
So, like I said, I think just, extra layers, because you know what, right now, I mean, there's board turnover and there'll be committee turnover, and, sometimes there's disagreement on what the goals of this county are, and, what our vision is, and what the optics of every event are and whatnot, so I think it doesn't hurt to have lots of people involved, so. But it would, if it's vetted initially from your committee, which should give us some reassurance that there's been a process.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's what we're doing. And last year, we were requested was in February, and it was already too late because I've already contracted and allocated a majority of those funds, and the rest of them came here to you guys, and that was for approval for that reason. And now this year, it'll still come the same way for approval. You'll just have a little more information, and you'll have a committee that actually looked at it, talked about it, and you know, we can move forward with that. And if there's changes we need along the way,
Yep.
I'm willing to make those, so
So
we just, whatever
these
works.
dollars, the 170,000 that we're talking about are pretty much all allocated towards fair, actual county fair events.
Events that happen at
Community
the
events,
fairgrounds.
so for any of the events that are out there.
Because there is an allocation of money that comes out of at budget time as well. There's additional money there, and that's
Well,
what we
there's,
give.
there's
It's
funding to the
in
fair
there.
board, they get half a mil.
Yeah, they get $500,000, which is also supposed to be allocated towards fair, county fair, right? That's kind of our.
Yeah, fair
that's our-
events that they do, yep.
Okay.
Yep. And right now, they do the kids' fair and the ranch rodeo, and then support the rest of the things that happen out
Well,
there.
we're sitting in a time when we are heavily scrutinized as far as how county dollars are being
Absolutely.
spent, and, we're looking at a time when I think dollars are gonna become more and more limited. I mean, there's some things going on at the state level that, I don't know, so we just need to be really careful about how we allocate dollars.
And last year, I know that in that specific item of my budget, I did turn back dollars because there just wasn't the need for the dollars, or they weren't the events that we were gonna do. So I'm very responsible in figuring out what brings stuff to our county and what doesn't. And so, there's a lot of that in just the history of what we've been doing with allocating these funds. And we make sure that they spend them the way they're going to, and that it's not just a check handed to somebody. And the Fair Association does the same thing. If they're awarding a grant to somebody on some level, they make sure that that check is handed the day they do the event, so that if it's raining and we have to cancel, they don't just put $3,000 in their pocket. So, we're very good about doing that.
Well, it's a very open forum out there. A lot of people drive by it. It's advertised. Like I said, we just need to be really, careful that everything we do out there is, kind of meets our Stark County standard.
Yep, I agree.
So what do we need a motion or of anything?
No, we're done, no, we're not changing anything.
Okay.
Yeah, and we don't have anything to recommend for you, although we are gonna set up a meeting to do those now that we've got the budgets from the Rough Rider Commission and another entity, so we'll do that.
All right. Okay, livestock building options. Last thing on old business.
I can give you an update if that's okay. So as everyone knows, we rejected the bids mid-February with a plan to come back and try to figure out a path forward that works. And so the path forward as it currently looks is taking kind of threefold. One is to have a path that, and the big thing is compliance and interpretation of code. And so we're looking at that to include looking at other provisions and coding of the code to deal with it. And the vast majority of the issue is dealing with occupancy. And so there is an opportunity to take another look at the section of code that would kind of flex that occupancy scenario. The other, one of the other approaches that's being looked at is to downsize the option that would be code compliant and then bring it to this board and say, is a smaller building still what this group is looking at and willing to support? And that's all good and dandy. That's taken some time because right now, with the tariffs hitting tomorrow, the cost of the product of that facility have skyrocketed immensely. Whereas, a couple months ago, you could have locked in the product for 30 days. Now you can lock it in for 1 day. And so I think that storm will settle out. So I think in the meantime, while that's settling out, we can kind of fine tune and make everything work and be compliant, and then bring that project back to us and see what that looks like, so. Any other questions on that?
So, under the UBC building code, what is our status there? What category are we currently in?
Yeah, so Jared went to look under the Section A, which is an ag facility. And we had been told that he should look under U, which is miscellaneous, which is more flexible.
We're currently in ag, or A?
A, yep.
A,
And-
which does not mean ag. Is that correct?
Oh, excuse me, yes, right, I made that, yes. So, but it's under A is what Jared wrote his review under. And if we would be able to move it and tweak some things under U, it's miscellaneous, which is more flexible, put it that way. But we still have some size limitations there. And we're navigating through that.
And ultimately, it's about occupancy.
Occupancy is the driver.
And that's the occupancy level is going to basically throw us over a threshold where we're gonna need fire suppression,
Yes,
which is basically a deal killer.
yes, yeah,
Well, as I recall, the last time we discussed this, and again, I wasn't at the last meeting, but I thought we were going to reach out to the fire suppression folks to see if we can't get under that threshold, what exactly does that mean? What exactly is the expense for it?
yeah, in general conversations, we did not have them bid, but in general conversations, we're somewhere between 400,000 and 500,000.
And it would be,
And
that
that's
would-
just not the suppression, it would be the holding tank, the pressure system, the winterization system, all those things to make that work.
Thanks.
And at that point, then we don't have to downsize anymore, but that's the whole revolving
Right.
unit.
Right,
Yeah, at that point, if you're spending 400,000 to 500,000 on fire suppression, you might as well make one big building instead of two medium-sized buildings.
yeah, potentially. But you're getting 30% less for your money, that's the
Yeah.
point that I struggle with.
Yep.
Is you're immediately discounting your project by 30% if you suppress it. So I think over the next 30 to 60 days, we'll have some other options to present and get a path forward, because if you want to spend the same amount of money and have a smaller building, I don't know that that's necessarily the best option for us either. But it'll be a board decision, so.
but a small building could take us one step further towards this county fair business.
Yeah, good.
And, that's where this whole thing for me was all about getting toward, one step further. Cause right now, like I said, we just talked about uncertainty of things, and it's like, well, for, let's say under $1 million roughly, we could have got one more piece added. Now, maybe we gotta wait a few more years or a year or two or whatever to add the next piece, but at least we're moving forward.
At least get some going.
Adding us, maybe it's smaller, but I mean, it's adding another piece towards that. And, it's like, I feel like that's where I would, instead of just like, and then the other option, Courtney, is like you said, is building one big building. It's like, well, then that throws us into a number that we choke on and nothing gets built.
You're right.
And it's like, well, that's not why, I mean, we wasted all this time discussing, it's not a waste of time, but ultimately we were trying to get some action here to getting one more step towards this county fair thing, and 4-H component was a big part of it, so. And like I said, Rome wasn't built in a day, one little thing, one little piece add here, so I would be in favor of if we could somehow maneuver and get us under a threshold to build us a building that's reasonable, not gonna, set up a bunch of alarm bells here across the county about how much money we're spending on the fairgrounds, and add one more piece to your county fair, support those 4-H and FFA kids, which I think is a worthy cause, so.
Well, and I
my
think
2
another
cents.
thing, and I know Lisa testified on it, there is gonna be hopefully a funding mechanism for county fairs. House Bill 1591, and you can go ahead and update us on that, Lisa, if you want.
So on the House Bill 1591, it was definitely a good thing. I think there was a lot of support for it. They did cut the money in half from 3 million down to $1.5 million. Some of the testimony that they gave, some of the fairs that gave, basically told them, there's no way we can have a match, we can't come up with the money. I told them there is a way to come up with the money, they just aren't looking for it, because I've had several conversations with multiple fair people after those testifying sessions, and so they really just don't know where to look for the dollars to get their matches, and so I think that has changed their minds a little bit. I think it goes back, I don't know if it's on the schedule today, nobody told me yet today, and I haven't looked at Mark Landis'
So is
email.
is it currently, I mean, that's $1.5 million match dollars is what they're talking about
Every
providing?
fair originally was able to get up to $100,000 one time for this next 2 years. And you had to have a shovel-ready project, you had to have your plans, everything in hand, and have a match of that 100,000 in order to do it.
100% match.
Or 50,000 or whatever you applied for. So when I testified, I told them, we have a shovel-ready project, we have the $100,000 match, and we're ready to move forward with it. And I think they needed to hear more of that. They're really worried that they're gonna allocate $3 million and it's not gonna get used. And so they decided they're gonna cut it in half, maybe tweak some of the matching a little bit so that it's maybe based a little bit on their population or how big their fairs are and that sort of thing. So I think that part of it's probably okay. And then they're anticipating, because the discussions even this last week were that they were anticipating doing this again and allocating dollars. If it works and people apply for it and we give this money out, they're maybe gonna do it again.
It was based on population, either a single, a dollar to dollar, 2 to 1, 4 to 1, depending on
Yeah, it was-
population.
yeah.
5,000 or less, 10,000 or less, or 10,000 or more, we would obviously fall into the dollar for dollar one. But if we can knock out $100,000, that would be very helpful when you're looking at, $1 million project, getting 10% of it. So,
Yeah, that'd be huge.
so yeah, that's.
Well, when you look at the Fair Association has $100,000. Let's say we apply and get $100,000 from them. There's $200,000. If we are able to, that's half of your fire suppression, which helps. And so I think that is something we need to consider. Are we gonna, and do it sooner than later, because I'm told that we have to have they'll open them as of, is it July 1st or August 1st for the applications? And then the Ag Committee will do it, it'll be very quick.
If
We
it
have to
gets
move
passed.
quick.
If it gets
So you're pretty confident it's gonna
Well,
pass?
Well, I think
Yeah,
there's a lot
they're
of support
pretty
for it, but it wouldn't, I mean, the funding wouldn't even be available till August 1st.
July 1st is what they said, but they said they're gonna open, and we have to apply very quickly for the monies, especially now with it half the
More
That
competitive.
1.5 million will go fast. There's gonna be,
Yeah.
not everybody's got shovel-ready stuff to make applications for.
That's
either.
exactly correct.
Yeah.
But even 15, if they get $1.5 million, 15 projects, that's half of the current level of county facilities, county fair facilities, right? They testified.
Yeah.
31, or what was it?
I think it's 32.
32.
That's total across fairs.
Yeah, so,
But that being shovel-ready, just like that bypass we did, we were shovel-ready, ready to go, and that's just a
But
big
you
part of
got it.
that application.
yep.
What determines occupancy?
Maximum people in the building at one time, so you could, for
Do you do it
example.
by square footage?
No. No, use. So if you say, hey, we're gonna bring Taylor Swift in and put people in the building, you can't say your occupancy is 300. You'd have to say it's probably 3,000. But if you have events that you can prove and certify that your occupancy is 300 or less, or 100 or less, then that plays a role in determining.
What did we say
Suppression.
our occupancy was on the?
Well, we didn't say it. We gave him a sketch of the building, and he came up with 300.
And 300's over your fire
300 would be
suppression.
over the threshold when you have a 22,000 square foot. building.
What's the threshold? What is the
Said
threshold?
12,000 square feet.
Well, 12,000 is the normal number of 12,000 or less would normally not require suppression
So it's going by square footage then?
on that, but you can go over 12,000 based on occupancy. So you could get, for example, if someone went out there and said, I have there's other county fairs, buildings that have gone up in this state that are not suppressed, that are bigger than 12,000 square
Yeah.
feet.
How do we do that?
But it depends what they said for occupancy.
Get
If
out
they
of
only
city
said 100
limits.
people were gonna be there, demonstrating or showing.
So we're, like the ag people are the ones that said, this is how many people we expect at our largest event.
I never said what the occupancy was. I gave them a sketch of the building which showed a layout of some bleachers around where they
Yeah.
would show and sell the 4-H livestock. I never gave them a number on occupancy.
Yeah, I don't think
And so how did
anybody
they determine that occupancy? That's my question. If we could get that number lowered, then we're okay to move forward.
Yes, but then you're stuck with that number. So if you have 200, and then you want to do an event in the building that potentially has more than 200 people, you can't hold it. So I'm just saying, based on the conversations I've heard over the years, that's why I did not dictate the number.
Occupancy is, I had to do a little research here, based on egress and fire safety. And then what the facility is being used for, such as a classroom. There's certain codes for classrooms of how many can be fit into a certain size classroom and stuff like that, and what it's being used for. So I guess there's several factors that go into that. Not just the square footage.
So length,
And that's where I was-
length of travel to a door, we never had an issue on this because we had so many overhead doors and so many walk
Yeah.
doors. So length of travel is part of it, so.
The one thing that I would consider doing, or like you guys to consider doing, is at least putting up a covered area, a small covered area, so that we can stop renting a tent and wasting between $5,000 and $7,000 for 3 days. It drives me crazy to be wasting taxpayer dollars like that when that money could be put there where that tent is, would be no problem to put it there, and be able to do something with it. You could put windscreen on there and it would work really well for them in the interim especially. And they can do other things in there, when the time
How
comes.
big would that have to be?
I think, Dustin, do you have?
What, the tent we rent is what, 40 by?
It's 40 by 120 is what that tent is. And that is a good size for the 4-H. You guys wouldn't need it bigger, would you? And they,
In that location too, it could be repurposed. You could use it for a lot of things,
correct.
beer gardens,
Yep,
during
even-
the fair or
yeah.
whatever,
And the Purina Endurance Trials, they're gonna have food in there, and they're gonna do some things there. So again, there's tent rental now they're there for 10 days, so it's a little bit different, but there's still dollars that have to be allocated to have those tents set up. Sometimes they're not even available. We got lucky with,
Is this similar to what we discussed a couple of years ago, just a covered shaded area?
correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically getting the
This would be
livestock
temporary,
animals
yeah. I
out of
mean,
the
it
sun.
would be a lot of other uses, but, yeah. Oh,
That'd be like a pole barn structure
Yeah,
or metal?
pole steel just with the roof, basically,
yeah,
right?
that's all. Mhm.
Yeah.
Something I can
And
put a
even
little
that, I have
windscreen
no
on
idea.
and,
I have no
yeah,
idea. What size.
relatively inexpensive.
What size?
40 by,
40 by 120 is what the tent is that we rent. We could go a little bigger to do something like that, cost-wise. You'd probably be the best one to,
Yeah,
I know
I mean, longer,
they need it
wider, I
for
don't know.
the showing and also to pen
right.
pigs and
Right.
stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it'd be probably the same dimensions as
I would
the
guess.
building we
that'd be a
have set up.
dirt floor, concrete?
Dirt.
Dirt,
Dirt
yep,
floor,
no
yeah.
concrete, yep.
Another factor that comes into play on fire suppression, is it insulated, not insulated? That's a factor. I mean, there's such a,
And we were insulated, right? We
We're
were
not
gonna be
insulated.
No, we weren't.
no, not,
We're
not,
not gonna be insulated.
no.
If
So
we-
why would we need, the fire suppression, for winter ops if we're not insulated?
Well, but it's a wood structure, so if something happens, you know how fast that would potentially, the fire would move, so, potentially.
Wood and tin,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so,
It's a pole barn, basically.
Did they give any options for variances based on how many roll-up doors you have, anything like that, that we
It's
could
length- It's
incorporate?
length of travel, so it doesn't make any difference whether it's a swing exit door or a roll-up exit door. You have to have that 75-foot limitation to get to an exit.
Okay.
And you did a good job with where they were going, because there was plenty of ins and outs and how you could use it and set up a facility for anything that you wanted to do in there. It was laid out
Yeah.
good as far where those doors were gonna be.
So I think,
So,
you know, to
that part
sum
was
it
good.
up, we have a lot of information, we're still moving forward, I'm still optimistic, quite optimistic, we're gonna be able to bring a nice project forward with a reasonable cost. But like I said, just, you know, we're continuing to work on it, so.
I'll just keep it on the agenda.
Sure.
Then,
Yes,
okay.
please.
Good.
All right, that's the last thing I have, so, unless anybody has anything else, motion to adjourn, anybody?
Thanks for providing us with the yearly schedule.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
We are adjourned.
thank you.